we sing these songs. I say it all the time, but we sing these songs and we read these scriptures and we talk to each other and hype each other up. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to cost you something. You don't step into anything and think like, oh, I'm going to come out scot-free. No, you're going to come out with your butt on fire. You're going to come out with, you're going to come out with some bruises. You're going to come out with some bumps. You're going to come out with some cuts. You're going to come out with some scrapes because it's not a safety thing.
I guess we already started.
We're already in it.
Started,
so
right?
I'm, like as soon as I put the headphones in, we just start going.
Let's just keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. See what happens.
My bad. But yeah, so I grew up on a street called So Look Drive, and my mom, when I was a kid, my mom was putting me on the bus, and because I was in a private school and they were doing like private transport, like they were doing like a public-private transportation kind of thing. So our church had a school. I went to that school, and we also were a part of that church. And she wanted to put me on the bus for the first time, and I was about like 6. And she said, "Okay." She drilled me that first night. And she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna put you on the bus, yada yada yada." And she made a song for me, and I'm not gonna sing it, but she made a song for me to remember. And when I go up to the bus driver, it was like that Forrest Gump moment.
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Hi, my name is Forrest Gump." Yeah, it was kind of like that because I had to get up there, get on the bus and tell the bus driver, "Hi, my name is Jason Hayes and I live on 1808 Solo Drive." So, and creatively, just the idea of So Look, it's so much bigger than just the podcast. Not to make it so, but it is. It's from like it's kind of like, in a way, like how I grew up is how I want to help people as an artist and as a creative person. Like, because I grew up in, it was an apartment complex. So there was apartments and they all looked the same. And I had, friends of the family that my parents knew. And like they lived across the street from each other. And like, we just had a community of people. And it was only just a few of us, but like we were all really tight. So I don't know where it came from, but I felt like it was definitely God inspired, because I definitely remember when I got that visual of like having like a whole community of creative people. And we all kind of like, I call it creative housing. That's not real, but that's the thing that I think about.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like what you're doing with, Deep Talks and what I'm doing with So Look. It's like when we come together, we work together. I'm helping you build your creative house and you're helping me build mine.
Right.
And like, I feel like we're really stingy and a little bit insecure when it comes to like creating and like collaborating. And we make it so cool, but there's a lot of ego.
There is,
and it's like, I had to deal with that too, because as soon as I started doing my podcast, I was like, oh, okay, now this person's doing the podcast and this person's doing, oh, okay, well, let me see what they doing. Let me see, I went through that. I did that.
I feel you. 1,000%. And I think my biggest struggle is I can be very controlling sometimes, and I want to be in control.
Yeah.
But I've learned usually the people that are like that, all their life had no control of their life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
I sometimes do play the comparison game.
Yeah.
Especially, and it's easy to see people like it. I want more people to put, have their own podcasts, because it'd be cool, collaborating with other people.
Yeah.
In Gainesville here, I don't know that many people that do podcasts in like video.
Yeah.
But I want to see that because I want to collab with other people. But sometimes if I'm not careful, jealousy can get in the way, and I'll say
100%.
Oh, they started because I started.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, oh no, okay, so now they doing the podcast now. And I'm out here doing this and I've been doing this, and well, it ain't like this. And we do that. We judge, and I'm judging my podcast from your podcast, and I'm realizing how stupid that is.
It's really stupid.
Like, but we do it all the time. Like, you know, if I see you doing something that even I wanted to do, what's so funny about that is that we tell on ourselves. Let's say you decide you're going to come out with an album and you put the album out. And me looking at you and me knowing you, and I see you, you know, putting out the album. I'm like, oh no, Fredo doing an album now. Oh, what's this album? Let me listen to this. Oh, all right, that song is okay. I would have done this, or I would have done this. And you know what's so funny is that we do that all the time. And we see people doing things that we want to do. And then when we see them go out and do it, then we get jealous, or then we get insecure. And it brings out the insecurity inside of us, because, and then we do that. It's ego. Then we turn to this egomaniac of, well, if I did it this way, then I would have done, or well, they did it, but they're doing it, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't do it that way. I would do, it's like, oh my God, shut up, because you haven't even put anything out.
Right.
At least they put in the 10,000 hours to get the thing out. The hardest part about doing the podcast was doing the podcast.
For sure.
That was the hardest part. Like, I think by the 5th episode, I was tired. And I was like, I don't want to do this no more.
It takes a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort.
I mean, to set this
Yes.
was, it's been 2 hours of me trying to set up everything.
Yeah.
Memory cards, audio, making sure the cameras, my white balance is set correctly.
Mm-hmm. It's just, it's hard. It's hard to start a podcast, or like the hardest part is to start it, because you have to just do it, And for some reason we have an issue with just doing it, whatever it is. Like, there's things that I want to do, but for some reason I have to muster up the courage, the confidence, and the faith and belief in myself to go out and do it. Because that's the hardest part, is just stepping out and stepping into whatever it is. And I think, like, especially for us who have a Christian foundation and have a Christ foundation, it's so interesting because, we think that we go to meetings and we go to, we spend time with each other, however, and we get these sound bites and all this stuff on Instagram and Facebook and whatever and YouTube, and we listen to people like, whoever your said preacher is, and we go, yeah, I can do it. They're hyping you up, they're getting you ready, they're like, yeah, you can go out there and but when the lights go out and when we're done high-fiving each other, when we're done crying our eyes out and we're done, jumping up and down in faith, you still have to go do it. And what's so funny is that everybody's not there.
Right. What do you think stops people from actually doing it?
Oh, fear. I mean, it's really that simple. It's just fear. And like, because ego, insecurity, anxiety, depression, all those things are just fear.
What was your biggest fear?
Perfectionism, which is something I still fight, which is not really a fear, but it's still a huge thing. Especially for us who like to be in control and are super creative. We're just high-strung perfectionists. You don't know you're a perfectionist until you actually put something out that you want to do, because then you're like, oh, I don't like that. And you're like, no, it's trash. And everybody's like, no, it's good. It's like, no, it's terrible. But perfectionism was something, and I still deal with that, but it's not really something as a struggle. It's just a tool that I need to learn how to use, because if I don't use it the right way, it's unhealthy. But if I use it in a constructive way, I can make some really great stuff. But insecurity in ways of like comparison and rejection of like, that's the biggest fear, is like coming out and saying, I'm going to do something, and then actually having to do it. Because especially for me, like, and consistency. Like being consistent, showing up every day to do it, whatever it is, but the podcast was something I had to learn how to be consistent on, because it's like, I have to do this.
No matter what happens around your life, like this is I have to be consistent. Yeah,
you got to do it.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, the effort it does take. It's not just, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes people get caught up in like I'm not doing this so people can look at me. Oh, Fredo's doing this, or oh, Fredo now thinks he's famous, or now he thinks he's some kind of public figure. But it's just really like, I felt the need, like I felt like God really, that's the side that people didn't see. Like God really put this in my heart that I had to start this deep talks. It was more than, it was deeper than, you know, what people really analyze. And I just think at the end of the day, being a creative is hard. And I think, can I be a little real? Would you say that, I hate calling out like actual names, but would you say it, like Free Chapel in itself? And I'm not go ahead, we both come from Free Chapel, and I'm not like gonna say anything negative, or
no shade,
just no shade, just being realistic. But I got caught up with the perfectionism of the structure of Free Chapel, that like, which I've learned a lot. Like I am where I'm at because of God first, but there's a lot of little technical things that I've learned through Free Chapel that I kind of, you know, I've learned some of the things that I just never thought I would learn.
And where we come from and where we've worked, they do a phenomenal job when it comes to production. I will say that regardless of any reserves that I have, we were in the best, I feel like it was the best ministry, the best department, whatever you want to call it, because they knew what they were doing and they knew how to do it well.
Oh, for sure. And like I went to a couple other churches, like for example, Relentless Church, that they were cool with if scripture went out wrong scripture or super late, or you know, the camera, the jib, you know, started you know, doing all that, and they were okay with it. And which I guess is a balance, because I think we all should have a spirit of excellence and do things excellent. Why do things halfway, you know? But also be okay with the okay, maybe that podcast wasn't so great, or maybe, you know, I didn't.
It's a balance.
It's a balance. And I just want to say, I also feel like Free Chapel is such a great place to grow. Like it really is.
It is.
And sometimes people kind of use Free Chapel to learn, and they kind of just run away, you know?
It's really a lot of you're taking a lot of the information that you have, that you get from it. Because I remember I was working at a church for a few minutes, and it was because of, and because we live in Georgia, so Free Chapel is one of the biggest churches in Georgia. Like, because I worked there, and because I was affiliated with it, and that's where I came from, it was kind of like we definitely need to bring him in, because it's because of the name. So regardless of how you feel about it, the name does go out there. And like when people hear that, you know, in the ministry world and church world, people do kind of perk their ears up, good or bad. But I will say, like, I didn't know I was a producer, because that's what I did there.
So you became one?
Yeah. Like, it's like, I didn't know I had that, you know, of like,
for sure,
you know, when it really is sink or swim. Like, it's like when you get thrown into situations, how do you handle it? How do you deal with it? That's something like, you can definitely learn that, but because I definitely learned, but it was something of like, okay, fear, for example, is such a huge thing that we all struggle with, but it can be one of the greatest tools that we have, because like, instead of being reactive to the fear, you be responsive to it and say like, and that's the one thing that I guess I'll call him my mentor.
Wait, say that again. That was really good.
Oh, like
instead of being
reactive to the fear, you be responsive to it. Of like, okay, because what we do naturally is we go, I'm afraid. So your mind is telling you, okay, I'm afraid. You're afraid. We're afraid of this situation. Be afraid of this situation, because our mind wants to protect us. It's in protective mode. Like, I want to protect you from whatever it is. But, you know, if you're a spiritual person, the spirit is saying, no, we're going to go do this. or no, we're going to try this, or no, this is what God wants me to do, or no, this is what I'm feeling, like what you said. But your mind's like, no, don't do it, because if you do it, and it comes up with every kind of crazy scenario of what could happen. That's just how my mind works, because I definitely struggle with anxiety and paranoia. So I'm always thinking of the worst possible, and that's also just a fear thing, like a human thing. Like our mind goes to the scariest thing that could happen. And instead of us going, you know what, that could happen, or it may not happen. But at the end of the day, I still got to do it, or I still want to do it, or I still feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, regardless of. We don't talk about that enough, of like stepping out in, I'll use church or Christianese term, stepping out in faith is, yes, it's scary. And that it's so weird, because there's a weird conundrum of the way we think if you're in church, because we think like, we sing these songs, I say it all the time, but we sing these songs and we read these scriptures and we talk to each other and hype each other up. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to cost you something. You don't step into anything and think like, oh, I'm going to come out scot-free. No, you're going to come out with your butt on fire. You're going to come out with, you're going to come out with some bruises. You're going to come out with some bumps. You're going to come out with some cuts. You're going to come out with some scrapes, because it's not a safety thing. You have to abandon the safety thing. You can't be afraid to, okay, you're going out into foreign territory of whatever it is that you're going to do. So for us being creative, it's like, there is a level of, yes, boldness and courage that you have to have, but there's also a level of like belief of like, I read a book by Russ. He has a book called Get Out of Your Way. And he talks about like, he had to have like an insane level of self-confidence, and it wasn't even real. It was fake, but it was, we think like, okay, if I make myself less than, or if I feel like, oh, I can't do it, no, that's not going to work. If you think, if you want to do something and you beat yourself down, like some of the boldest people we know hype themselves up, and it's like, you're delusional, and it works. It totally works.
It works.
But even they're afraid, because that's the difference between reacting and responding. Like I'm afraid of it, because my mom calls it a looker versus a leaper. I'm a looker. So if me and you are on this edge of a cliff and we're looking at the cliff,
I overanalyze it. I look at every single thing.
I look at where the vines are. I look at if there's a little cleft on the rock where I can keep my foot on. I think about I analyze, I'm a strategist. I'm not a tactician.
I feel that.
So other people, they're tacticians. They're like, screw it, I'm going to jump off this cliff. I don't care what's going to happen, but I'm going to figure it out. I go, all right, instead of jumping, I'm going to slide. Yeah. It just kind of, I'm just going to, like, I don't jump in the pool. I put one foot in, and then you do that thing, you wet all right, because I don't want my torso's dry, so I'm that's the difference between, you don't
want to feel it like right away.
Yeah.
You kind of want to, I feel that, and I think I've never really, I know we've talked, small talks around, church and stuff, but never really sat down and talked with you. And I never realized how much, I'm literally looking at myself while you're talking. So I didn't realize how much, I always thought like I was the only one thinking this way. Yeah. And there's so many people that feel the same way I feel. Like I'm very pessimistic, and I always think of worst case scenarios, and it's how you mentioned you overanalyze how we mentioned how you overanalyze everything. Like I even to the point of I look at the direction the clouds are moving, you
do the lick the finger and you check the wind.
Really
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
Do you think everything is spiritual?
Oh, I don't think you didn't see my Instagram the last couple
I
hours.
Didn't.
Okay.
Did you post something about that or what?
All right, so first of all, I want to say, and I think if I can remember, okay, what I want to say about what you're doing and how you feel about, oh, you're getting a big head now because you want to do this. Like, I'm realizing now, like, there is a difference between people that want to say something and then there's people who have something to say.
Sheesh.
Like, because I'm realizing, like, there's a lot of people that I know that have things to say. They want to say something. Or not want to say something. They have something to say. And it's not even like a, okay, we'll give you 5 minutes on the pulpit, or we'll give you, whatever. It's like, no. There's something deep on the inside of them that they have that they want to say something. Like, and it's not a, I gotta say something. It's like, I have something to say, but I'm afraid of what it is because I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what it is, but I know that there's something on the inside of me that's knocking and saying, I'm trying to just give me 5 minutes.
Let me out.
And let me out. TD Jakes has a message on that. It's amazing. But yeah, like spirituality. Oh my God. I literally had a conversation with myself, with God about this yesterday.
Wow.
And then with a friend of mine, and I posted something earlier or yesterday. So long story short, the last 2 days have been absolutely gorgeous. So I've been out to the lake, and I've been at the lake probably more than I've been at home. And like, I've stayed at the lake and just chilled. And there was a nice little spot where I could rest my back. The rocks were they were just great proportion. They're just perfect. So I could just like lean on it the way I could lean on this chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just chilling and I'm listening to music because that's what I do. And I looking out at the scenery, and like, I like places that make me feel not important, or I feel smaller than
wow.
I like places. I like feeling small in big places. So lakes, waterfalls, beaches, concerts, conferences. I love all that stuff. Anyways, it hits me, and it's like that aha moment. It's like, okay, I get it now. And so I stepped away from church, and I stepped away from Free Chapel. I stepped away from ministry. And well, I don't say ministry because we're doing ministry right now.
Yeah,
ministry is
sure.
It's just who we are. It's what we do. We'll never run away from that.
But as much as we try, sometimes
we are tethered to it. We can't get rid of it. The, I guess, epiphany or the realization for me, or just and this is for me. This is not for anyone else. This is not to whatever you decide for yourself is important. But I realized, I'm more spiritual than I am religious. I was thinking, is it possible to be a spiritual Christian and then be a religious Christian? And then I'm going into it just was such a relief, because I felt like religion was like a box, and I was trying to put myself in it, and I couldn't move. You can only go certain, camera can't really see me, but you can only go certain, places in religion. And it's so much, it's the history of our faith and our religion has been so diluted and Americanized and evangelized, and it's become something that I feel like it's not that it isn't what it's supposed to be anymore. It's just a little bit skewed, and it's a little bit, you have to do your history to figure out why we believe the things that we believe, why we don't agree with certain things. Well, the Bible says this. Okay, cool. The Bible does say that. But, and I'm not going to go too deep into theology because people get really sensitive about theology. But, and I'm not a theologian, and I don't want to ever be a theologian because it's boring. But, it's just boring. It really is, But no shade if you're a theologian, or if you have or if you're into or you're into theology. I think it's really dope, But I realized no, I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual being. I'm not religious, and I will never be religious, because when I tried to be religious, it hurt me and it affected me. in ways that's not how I think.
Yeah.
That's not how I am. That's not what, yes, God is very clear about things that are right and wrong. But I realize I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's all very true. And that's the foundation of my faith. But it's the foundation of my faith. That's what I go back to. That's what I also build upon. So whatever happens throughout my life, I still have that. I can go far left, I can go far right, I can go up, I can go down, whatever direction I go, but I still have my foundation of my faith.
Right.
It will never change. And my foundation, and that's the thing that we don't realize, or we don't, I guess we don't trust, is that the foundation of our faith, is it strong enough for me to be the person that God's called me to be, and to go and do things that I want to, I want to do, that God, wants me to do? Do I trust the foundation of my faith enough to say, you know what, this will always be there. This will never change. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they believe. That doesn't affect me, because I know where I come from, and I know what, I know who I am. And religion is not something that I want. I'm not religion. I'm not a product of religion. I was born in it. I was raised in it. And I was taught religion, but I never could fit into religion. And it's not because religion is, I'm not here to say if it's bad or if it's good. It's just, it's that's up to you to figure out. For me, it's not necessarily bad, but for me, it doesn't fit me anymore, because that's not where I'm at, And like, for example, that's what I posted. Like, we're trained to go to church. If you don't go to church, you're lost, you're black, you're backsliding, you're this and you're that. The world is not as black and white as we try to make it. There's so much gray in the world that we live in. When we have conversations about topics about abortion and gay marriage and climate change and immigration, all these different issues that we fight, because that's what we do. We fight each other every 4 years. It's just amazing. And then we forget that we just wanted to kill each other.
Literally.
Yeah. We just destroyed each other for the last couple of months. And then we just act like it never happened. But
it's insane.
It's nutty, bro. It's insane that we do it. And then we just go, okay, well, and everybody's watching us around the world, and they're like, they do this every year. It's just a house divided.
Yeah. How do you feel about politics and church, like, combined? Do you feel like
they should never mix?
They should never mix, right?
Never. I believe that people who want to be in politics and have for example, for us who are Christian and believe in Jesus, I believe that you should, if you really feel a mandate to go into politics, go and make some change. Raise your voice. But the relationship between church and politics, that's not biblical. None of that is in the Bible. I mean, yes, it does say to obey the laws of the land. It does say that we should pray for our leaders. It does say that we should, obey, and respect that. But the devil is in the details. Like, if I'm going to, I can't tell you, Alfredo, that if you want to drink, if you choose between Pepsi and Coke, if I tell you that you drink whatever you want to drink, that's what, drink whatever, that's what you want to do between these two sodas. But if you see me drinking Coke and I'm in some form of leadership and you look at me and follow me, what are you going to drink? Coke. Because you see me drinking Coke. Because we're monkey see, monkey do. And when you have people in ministry and people in church, pastors and leaders and, ministers of the gospel, people are going to follow you. They see what you're doing. And you got to know enough about who you are and where you stand on the political scale so that it doesn't matter what I do, and it doesn't matter what they do. I know where I stand. And for me to that's the problem, is when I see people take Jesus and mix him in with politics, if Jesus would, because people say all the time, if Jesus was alive, would he be a Republican or a Democrat? Jesus wouldn't even he'd be neither, because he was never about that. What did he say? Lend to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Why are you asking me this question? Because they asked him, if I pay taxes, and he said, that's why I love Jesus, because Jesus was so cool. And it's not like a churchy thing. No, Jesus was
so real.
Jesus was one of the realest people that ever walked the face of the earth. And it was just common sense. Like, what I forgot what they said. Like, how do you feel about taxes? Whose face is on that coin? Caesar. Give it to Caesar. Duh. Like, he was so real, and it was just common sense. And like, I feel like it should never mix, bro. It should never mix. Like, yeah.
Jesus is so relevant. I mean, it's just like, I don't think one thing I always say is how like atheists or people, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
But I've come to realize, like, if Jesus wasn't relevant, we would stop talking about him a long time ago. Why is that still a discussion?
We're still talking about Jesus, Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, Michael Jackson, Elvis, like Billy Graham, all these different people, because a legacy that deep, the Apostle Paul, and Moses and the prophet Elijah, a legacy like that goes so deep that it keeps being talked about. That's why Jesus, that's the difference between a legend and someone, or a leader and a trend, or whatever, someone that just wants to stay relevant right now. No, like, what was it? I quote the Sandlot, said, heroes get remembered, legends never die. Like, we're still talking about Jesus. We're still isn't that amazing? We're still making fun of Jesus. We're still talking about Jesus. We're still worshiping Jesus. We're still cracking Jesus jokes. And he been gone for what, 2,000 years? And there's evidence that he was alive and he was a real person. And we're still talking about him.
That's what I'm saying. And I was going to go back into kind of reminded me of, the whole church hurt conversations. But I saw this somewhere, some pastor, you might probably watch this, but this pastor talked about how this one church, this guy got saved. He was in gangs and all that. And long story short, he got saved, but he come, from the ghetto, that whole lifestyle. And so when he got saved and was in church, after that, that high when you just got saved and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm flying.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
It's amazing. One time, a good friend of mine, Will Stowe, he told me, he's like,
Will.
Yeah.
I miss Will.
Me too. I haven't seen him in years. But he told me, he's like, enjoy that while it lasts, And I was on my high at that time. But I go back to the story. He said something that kind of hit me. And basically he got discouraged after he got baptized because, well, he comes from gangs. So gang members, they got each other's backs. And so he's like, I thought church was like gangs where they actually had my back, And so, he left church and I don't know, it just shook me because I'm like, that's crazy. You got people like that don't know nothing about Jesus and step into this and then you get hurt, I come from small churches. So that, I seen all that as well in the small churches. It's not just the big churches, but in small churches, you just see it more because there's less people.
Yeah.
But like even when a new member would come and wearing a hat, and I've had, I've seen where, take off your hat. Yeah. That's a disrespect to church kind of thing. Yeah. But I truly believe to come as you are, and everything else will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why you laugh?
This sounds so. We're on the Deep Talks podcast, so I know your whole podcast. We getting some real stuff. And I want to be really, really loving and like really nice when I say this, or kind, because that's actually that's a fruit of the spirit. Is that fruit of the spirit? Love, joy, peace. Yeah. It's a kind. Yeah, I actually learned the difference between kindness and being nice. My aunt told me that one time. She said it's better to be kind than to be nice. Because nice is passive. Kind is like, I'm gonna be kind to you and tell you that your breath stinks in a kind way.
Kind way.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind. You know. So anyway, yeah. So
you've been church hurt.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get my words together. So I feel like when I see people get saved, yes, cool. That's what we believe in. Great. Got saved. Love it. When I see people come into the church who don't know, I want to kind of like pull them aside kindly and be like, hey, not even like stick with me. I'm not even saying that. I'm just, because I'm not, I don't know everything. And, but
Same.
It's still like some people I know, like, I see what you're doing. I know, and I see who you're hanging out with, and I know where you're going. And you're not going to like where you're going. It's not what you think it is. And the deeper you get into it, the more you get to realize it. I wish I just stayed a pulpit person. I mean, not pulpit, a pew person, and just sat in the pews on Sundays. And I came to church on Sundays, and that's it.
Where do you think falls that fine line of, like, when pastors preach a lot about, well, if you're not doing anything for the church, you're not doing anything at all.
That's a very small-minded
statement. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, for me, I've heard people say, well, I'm not involved in church, but I'm doing a lot outside of it. Like, just because I'm not a volunteer or I'm not a contractor or working for the church, I'm still doing something. So I just,
you can be a stay-at-home mom and be doing something for the church.
Yeah.
You can be a teacher and still be doing something for the church. You can be a plumber and still be doing something for the church. You can be a musician who tours the world and sings to thousands of people a night and goes on secular stations and talks about their life and inspires people. You can be whatever it is, because it's not, that's my gripe with Christianity and I feel like Christianity is bigger than Jesus is itself, than Jesus. Like, Christianity has become a stigma and a shoe that I put on every single day, a jacket that I wear. It's not my life. It's just something that I feel like I have to put it on. And when I get to church, I got to put on my Christianity. I gotta talk. That's why I say Christianese. I gotta talk Christianese. I gotta wear, and it's a spiritual journey with God and you and the people that He brings into your life and how you interact with the people around you. One commandment, love. One, love your neighbor as yourself. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. So technically two. The bashing of, because you hear it all the time. If you're not giving money to the church, you need to watch out on that one. I get it, because the church is still, the church is the church. The church is it's a business. I remember I had a coworker come up to me one time. He said, why? He said, Jason, why do churches always want your money? And I said, because they're a business. Like, I mean, they're not going to tell you that, but they are. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just own it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not a lot of ownership in church, and in, there's not ownership. Own it. This is what you're doing. Own it. I would much rather you tell me to my face that you want my money versus you trying to take it and manipulate it. And well, the Bible says this and the Bible says that and the Bible says this. That's manipulation.
A lot of filtering.
Yes, that's manipulation. And when you, going back to what you were talking about, like that high you get from getting saved and then you get into the church, because it's the same function all the time. Sinner goes to church, sinner. I don't even like calling people sinners and lost. I don't like that terminology. It's so much elitism in that, there's so much, you feel like an elitist, outside looking in. We got to go save the lost. Here's my question to that is, what if they don't believe that they're lost? What if they don't think that they're lost? Who are you to tell them that they're lost? We have to challenge this stuff, and not in a way that's condescending and antagonizing, but if you have to challenge your faith. It says, now I'm quoting scripture. You got me quoting scripture up here. It says like, consider it pure joy when you face trials and tribulations of many kinds, so know that the testing of your faith has to be tested. It's got to be rocked a little bit. It has to be, and T.D. Jakes said it, or it's quoted from a theologian, or not theologian, a philosopher. What did he say? The unexamined life is not a life worth living. So sinner comes to church. Sinner hears a word. Pastor's preaching all kinds of stuff and hitting all the right buttons. Sinner runs to the altar. There are people there, lay hands on them, pray for them. That whole thing. He hears this good news about how he's saved, and the angels are celebrating and all these different things, and it's great. It's amazing. I'm not knocking that moment, because that's I've seen people in those raw moments, and
we've been there.
It's amazing to see it when people legit get saved. I don't even want to say get born again. There we go, because I don't like that terminology, saved, but get born again, because words are powerful. That's why I'm like correcting myself as we're talking. But when someone gets born again,
isn't it crazy how we have to literally keep correcting just in case we say something and then.
Well, it's not even for them.
Okay.
It's because I guess for me, I'm looking at what I believed, and that's why I say I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, because I had to step back and I had to look at what I believe in, and not look at it from being in it, because you don't know a toxic relationship is toxic when you're in it. You have to step out of it. Or you have to examine it,
right?
Or you need someone to say, "Okay, this is what's going on."
It's like a when I was a kid, I was playing soccer, and obviously I sucked at it, but my dad, my dad would actually, he'd look at me from the outside of the game. Mm-hmm. So he'd be like, "Well, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should have done this." Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it is better to look at it from the outside, because you can see exactly what went wrong.
Yes.
And when you're actually in it, it's hard, because you're right there.
You're too
close.
You're too close. So, like when they get in, get involved and become a member of the church, and we get you in, and there is a lot of Americanized. There's an Americanized system within modern day Western evangelical church. I don't want to get too much into that,
for sure,
but if you really step back and look at it, you'll see it, of how we plant churches and how we go out and do this and do that and do this and do that. I'm gonna be honest, because it's the Deep Talks conference. I remember we had a project. We were in ministry. I went to ministry school. We had a project, and we had to go out, and we had to so bad. We had to go and minister and reach out to. We went to Atlanta to go minister and reach out to the LGBT community. Here's why I slapped myself in the back of the head when I think about that. I was like, if you didn't see someone who's gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender walking down the street with their significant other, you wouldn't know if they were, if that's what their sexual orientation was. So when you go out there and go do that and move in that sphere, do you who's gay and who's not? Who's Who's this? And I can't see it. I can't. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like I can't. That's not something that
That's not for us to figure out. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not even just that. It's even like it goes even deeper to like how we evangelize and minister to people. Is like, for example, I want to go and minister to the Black community. Okay, cool. Nothing wrong with that. But you're looking at it as as if you're separate from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're separate.
Let me say something real quick before I forget.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say something. And that was one thing when I was talking to my wife. I was like, what do I talk about? Like, what do we even talk about?
We got plenty to talk about.
And my biggest thing was when, the protesting and all that was going on in Gainesville. Mm-hmm. People were, by the square, just Black Lives Matter, all that stuff, which cool, right?
Yeah.
And it's even hard to even say like white people, Asian people, Mexicans, because you don't want to like offend nobody, right? Yeah. But what I want to say is I found it very difficult when it's like, why are we only protesting in the hood or in the areas where there is Mexican, there is Black people, there is, why can't we go protest in the white neighborhood?
Because the devil is in the details. Look at that, like you just said right there. I sound crazy, but it's okay. We're so that's how we're programmed. That's how we're programmed.
You're not crazy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's like,
you get what I'm saying?
No, because it's literally what I was like, the same thing of like when someone says, I want to go Black community or I want to go to the Hispanic community. What does that look like? Okay. You want to go to the inner city. If I say, I want to, I feel like God is, let's spiritualize it. I feel like God wants me to go to the Hispanic community and, minister to Hispanics. Okay, well, you may look at it as you being the prophet to the Hispanic community, where you go into places like, the Dominican Republic and Mexico, and, you do the whole David Livingstone. If you don't know who David Livingstone, he's one of the greatest missionaries that ever lived. And you're just healing people in the Hispanic community, and you're helping them, you're setting them free, and you're speaking life to them and all that jazz. Or that's the grandiose idea. Or you can maybe marry a Hispanic woman, and then you get into her family. And then, you're doing it that way. And it's not you looking at them from that elitist mindset of like, you're not the savior. You're not the savior of the story. You're not Superman. You are an imperfect human being going to help and love and serve other imperfect human beings. There was only one savior, and that was it.
That's it.
According to our faith. So when you're talking about that, what I want to hit is, or what I wanted to talk about with that, when I said, going into the, Atlanta, talking to, LGBT community, going to the Black community, going to the Hispanic community, and talking about, you said like, going into the inner cities and stuff like that, because that's how we're programmed in this country to think, is that that's where only the Black people are. I'm Black. If you want, me and you just having the conversation, that can I may be helping you and you may be helping me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not what I'm getting at, and my point is that it's not, stop looking at it from a divided place of like, this is where the gays are, this is where the Black people are, this is where the Hispanics are, this is where, geographically, yes, but it's the person, people. It's not, the community or the state or the nation. Okay, and I get that, because definitely there are people that get, God put something on their heart and they go to places and they, they serve that entire nation. But we're not the Justice League. Like we're not.
Or the Power Rangers.
Or, we're not the Power Rangers. We're not, I feel like, okay, cool, great. I've gotten so many prophetic words, if you believe in that stuff, prophetic words, and God told me I'm going to speak to the nations, or God told me I'm going to speak to this, or God told me this, and God told me this, God told me this. For example, okay, cool, that's great. If God told you to do this, for example, like God told me I'm gonna speak to multi-generational, whatever you want to say, all that terminology. That could be you working at Walmart talking to 16 different people while they're in the checkout line.
Yeah.
There is a narcissism involved in sometimes how we spiritualize the stuff that God tells us. We're not the savior, and we're not the this is not the for example, this is not the Alfredo show.
Mm-hmm.
You go out and you do what God's told you to do, but you have the understanding and the awareness that it's not just you.
Right.
It's other people involved. It's not you going in and doing what God, this is my mandate and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm straying off and I feel like I'm spiraling.
You good?
Like, okay, I'll because I wanted to use this analogy for so long and I finally get to use it to kind of paint that picture, kind of tie it with a bow. If you haven't seen, have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have not.
Okay, cool.
The new.
Yeah, the new ones.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So if anyone has seen Wonder Woman, there's a scene where Chris Pine is the male lead actor in the movie. He's from Star Trek. He plays Captain Kirk, and then Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman. So there's a moment in the movie where she's confused. She's absolutely perplexed because she was raised in obviously Themyscira, and then she has and you hear it in the beginning of the movie is that her mom tells her this story about Ares, the god of war, and how he fell, and that there's this thing called the God Killer, and she's trained to believe this formula that there's chaos going on in the world. Who's the author of chaos and war? Ares. How do you kill Ares? With the God Killer, because apparently it was a weapon, but actually the God Killer was her. She didn't know that. So in her mind, she's thinking there's war out there, and Chris Pine comes to her and tells her, because he's in the middle of World War I, that there's war going on and conspiracies and all these different things. And she, in her mind, because she doesn't have that awareness, she doesn't know anything about what's going on. She just knows war, Ares, God Killer. So I stop Ares, the war is over. I kill Ares, the war is over. So fast forward into the end, towards the end of the movie, she's thinking that there's one villain in the movie that she thinks is Ares. She swears it's Ares, and if I spoil the movie, I'm sorry. It's not Ares. It's not the guy. But she kills him and thinks that it's him. So she's like, okay, cool. Yes, everything should stop. You kill God. You kill Ares, the god of war. Everything's done. People will stop fighting. They'll stop bombing each other. They'll stop killing innocent people. If you kill Ares, we're done. That's it. Cool. So then she looks out. There's a moment where she looks out and she still sees them because they were preparing for an invasion, and she still sees them loading up the planes. And got the gas mask on, and they're doing all that stuff. And she's perplexed. She's like, wait a second. I thought if you kill Ares, the war is over. So Chris Pine comes and sees, that she killed he was a general, a German general. And she's like, and she's spiraling. She's like, no, I thought if you killed Ares, that the war is over. And he's like, no. You don't understand. What if this is just how people are? Because she's like, I don't understand. I thought if you do this, then this would happen. And he goes, sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes people this is just the nature of people. That hit me so hard because a lot of Christians are Diana or the Wonder Woman. If you do this, according to what this book says and according to what these pastors say, then this is what's supposed to happen. The gays are going to stop being gay. The
transgenders are going to go back to
transgenders
normal.
Are going to go back to being normal. People who had an abortion or want to get an abortion are not going to do. It's not magic.
Illegal people are going to go back to
illegal people are going to go back to their countries, and no, that's not how it is.
I come to realize, like, I see our.
Did that make sense?
No. Yeah, okay, I haven't seen the movie, but I mean, I get the whole. Yeah, mm-hmm. I mean, that was. Yeah, mm-hmm. And I'm sure people that watched the movie already, know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but Thank you for spoiling it. But yeah. Anyways, I was gonna. The way I look at our organs, like people, it's all an organization. So
yes,
if we're not all the same, but we all have the same purpose to keep the blood flowing.
Ooh, that's good.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good. Yeah.
I don't want you to look like me or be the same, but how can we all just come together?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the biggest question, you know? Who has the answer? I don't
have it. I mean, like I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was talking to me about, you know, how she feels about, you know, what she's passionate about. And I don't want to, you know, like get too deep into that because I technically don't really have permission to tell the whole thing, but I'm just using that as an example. I was telling her, like, just to embrace who she is, because we were talking about race. And I was saying, like, embrace the fact that you are who you are. It's not to say that I think that's an insecurity that we have, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how to pinpoint that insecurity that we have, but it's like, again, like it's like, no, you're supposed to look like me. You're supposed to sound like me. You're supposed to. Newsflash, sweetheart. Not talking to her, but just people in general. You don't have all the answers, and the problem with politics, going back to politics in church, is that you have two opposing sides believing that they're right, or that one is wrong and the other one's correct, and, you know, vice versa. And that if something happens, it's their fault. And if that's something, you know, and it's like, if you pass a law in support of gay marriage, the Christians lose their mind. If you ban gay marriage, I'm just using that as an example, then, you know, the liberals go crazy, you know, and we don't have the answers. I think I've accepted that I don't have all the answers, and that am I carrying things, and I'm carrying issues that I can't solve, and that don't really need me to solve. Like, I'm not called to solve people's problems. I'm called to help you in any way. I'm called to love you. I'm called to be there for you. But at the end of the day, you are who you are, and I am who I am. I can't change you. Only God can do that. I can't convince you of anything.
Only God
can do that.
Yeah.
And through our conversations, we build each other up like we're doing right now. But it's like, it goes back to that. I'm not the savior. I never was. And so when I go around and I'm trying to, that's one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn in relationships, in church, and I'm gonna make it plain. Being in Free Chapel, I'm like, it light bulb came on again of like, are you in a place that you're not supposed to be in? You're convinced that this is where you're supposed to be, or you're convinced that this is where you're supposed to be at, but did the time run out on where you on the amount of time you were supposed to be there, and you're still trying to? Is the game over and you're still trying to shoot free throws? Is, you know, are you? Has the box gotten a little bit smaller because you've outgrown it, and there's no shade to the box? It's just looking at you, because we want to be, especially in church, we want to be big fish, but a lot of us are big fish in small ponds. And we don't realize how big we are and how much we've grown, and that we're walking around here trying to figure out, why is everybody bumping up on me? Everybody getting up, because you're not supposed to be there. You've grown out of it. We're supposed to grow. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to change. We're supposed to go from glory to glory, that whole thing. And what we do is, no, it's comfortable. I like this. This is really cool. I'm going to stay here. But God grow me. God stretch me. God enlarge my territory. God move me out of my comfort zone. God do this. God do this. God do that. And then we're like, I forget what Adam Sandler movie that is, where he's sitting in the kids' classroom, and he's just like,
I know what you're talking about.
I'm just here, And everybody's like, yo, what are you still doing here? Because you're afraid to grow. You're afraid to evolve. You're afraid to, and religion, toxic religion, keeps you comfortable.
Yeah.
And it keeps you safe.
It's like, I don't know where I saw this, but if you put a baby shark in a tank, where did I see this?
I've heard that. Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't grow.
It
like
dies.
It just stays in that size. But I think we are the most complicated, most complex species. I mean, to ever exist. Yeah. I don't think, animals think about things like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what's their belief?
Because you know what? We are so complex, and we are so, like you said. I went out to that lake. The water is doing what it's supposed to do. It sounds super. That sounds so super.
The trees are doing what they're supposed.
Trees are supposed to do. Are going to do what they're supposed to do. Animals wake up every morning and say, "All right, I gotta eat. I gotta eat, and I gotta poop. I gotta poop. I gotta reproduce. I gotta reproduce. I go to sleep." They're not thinking about, oh my God, how many followers do I have? How many people looked at my podcast today? Oh my God, do they like me? Do they even care about me? Oh my God, God called me to do this amazing thing, and I don't really know what you're. And sometimes I'm gonna do that to myself. Just stop. I realized out there on that lake that I was taking on too many things. I had a conversation, come to Jesus for myself, and I said, I enjoyed that day so much, and I was thinking about, I started feeling bad, and I'm like, why do you feel bad? Why do you feel? It's a gorgeous day. It's a beautiful day. The day wasn't thinking about you when it decided to be 70 degrees with no clouds in the sky, and you're upset. Why are you upset? Everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But for some reason, you're still not happy and you're still uncomfortable with yourself. What does that tell you about you? You're in a space that's doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. Trees are blowing, reproducing, growing, dying. Water is...
Camera just died.
Oh, it's okay.
That one.
Oh, poor camera.
That's my angle, so that'll be fine.
It's okay.
Are we still good? Or what was it looking like?
That's battery.
Really?
On the last string.
Okay.
Oh, because we're shooting 4K on that one.
Okay.
That's right. Okay, dang.
That's all good.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, yes, it's everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I'm still not content and happy within myself.
What do you feel like you're supposed to be doing?
It's not even about what I'm supposed to be doing. It's about what's already been done for me. Or not even for me. It's not even about me. Because the focus I put on myself. I come to places like what I told you earlier in the beginning of the recording of I like feeling big or small in big places because I don't have to think about myself because I'm in such an environment that's so big. I don't have to think about me. It's not about me. It's about the moment. It's about where I'm at. It's about, it's so what all that came, that conclusion came with all these things have been done. It's already been done. You don't have to do anything else.
You don't. And
it's because you feel that you don't deserve it. It's an insecurity on the inside of you and I'm not going to go too deep in it because it's really personal, but I mean, I've been personal the whole conversation. But anyway, it's like all that to say, it's all been done. Life and time and nature and kids and music and art and creativity and people, it is not about you. And we make it about us all the time. You're in a place... If you can't get, and I didn't realize it until yesterday, if I can't be comfortable with me, just me, there's a problem.
For me, the most vulnerable place I can be at where I feel the smallest, try going into the deeps of the ocean.
Oh, man.
Have you ever been like in the actual, like...
I can't swim.
Okay.
I will learn how to swim because I want to learn how to surf. So
okay, yeah.
I will get there.
Well, go into the middle of the ocean.
Yeah,
and that is the most vulnerable. I mean, you feel the smallest because you don't know what's under.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. But how do we finish this?
Talk about a lot.
I feel like
stuff.
Yeah, we've talked about a good bit, but it almost all went back to spirituality. Do you? I guess what would you say to those that are coming in to church and don't know nothing about it? Like why should people be? I guess. Well, I don't even know. Like this is where it kind of. I don't want to even put a title, but I guess like.
I feel you.
We're like Pentecostal kind of thing. Like, why should people go to that route? Like, why should people go that compared to like Buddha? Why Buddhism? You know?
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. I had to sit down and ask myself that question. A couple of years.
You ever think about that? Like, why am I like this religion? This spirituality.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine before I went to ministry school. Before I met any of y'all. Literally that year that I went into it, which was so crazy. And we talked about conversations that we're talking about right now, not just about religion, but about, life and about issues, moral issues. He asked me, he said, it was so stupid, but it was stupid enough to make me feel some type of way. He said, if you die, or when you die and you get to heaven and you see Jesus is chilling in the back of heaven, just hanging out. And you see, and God tells you, okay, or I think he said God or Buddha or somebody said, you have to admit that there are more than one, there's more than one God, or that there's more ways, there's numerous ways to get to heaven. And he said, would you, you can go see Jesus, you just have to admit that you were wrong. And he said, would you do it? And I was like, nope. Not going to do it. But then he didn't know that I was in my car, clearly crying out, asking God to show himself real because the root that I had in my life of Jesus and the Bible and church and all that stuff had been pulled. It wasn't uprooted, but it was definitely tugged to the root. You gotta know why. You have to know why. It's not just an emotional response. It's not just and I think, unfortunately, the church is really bad at that, is if we get people shaking and crying, and that's not, there's so many ways to experience God.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways to encounter God. And there's so many ways for God to speak to you. Because we're trained, if you fall on your face and you listen to worship music for 16 hours, and then you read Colossians, and you starve yourself, and you fast social media, and you don't curse, and you don't watch movies with any profanity.
Don't listen to secular music.
You don't listen to secular music, secular music is just Christians came up with that word, because it's not even a real word. I mean, it's not really like, it's a word, but it's not like it's Americanized. That's all a Christianity is. That's a box, bro. You put me in a box. Because if I tell you I was watching this movie and it had nothing to do with Jesus, but I felt like God was deeply impacted on my life, like, you know what? No, let me do this. I got a tattoo, and it's a tattoo of an eye. I don't know if you can. Well, I'll let you
probably be able to see it.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah. If you just like hold it up.
Yeah. So I got a tattoo right here.
I
don't know what camera I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And it's an eye, and it says "Love Amy" on it. That's Amy Winehouse. I watched the Amy Winehouse documentary, and I had no clue about who I knew who she was, but I actually made a joke when she died because I didn't know the whole story about her life. I watched the documentary a couple of years later, and I cried my eyes out because I didn't know nothing about her life, and I didn't know that she was struggling with so much, and she was so elevated at the time. And if she was still alive today, she would be one of the. She's a legend today, to this day. People still love Amy Winehouse. I love Amy Winehouse. Anyway, I was deeply impacted by that movie. And I felt like I lost a best friend when I watched it. And I never felt that way. I mean, there's a lot. I'm big on pop culture. So when Michael died, when Kobe died, when Prince died, like, I was, it still moved me, but that really messed me up for whatever reason. I loved it so much, and I love her legacy and her music so much that I got it on my arm. I could say that to someone, to a pastor, and they may be like, you need to be careful with that. Why? Why do I need to be careful? Because this, and that. You don't know where it comes from. You don't know. And God speaking to me in that moment, and I don't even say God speaking to me. It's just, I know when he speaks, and I know when he's putting something on me. Oh, I know when he's giving me something.
Just feel it.
You feel it. And that's why I don't call myself religious, because the box of religion says that I only can hear from God from these points of view or these moments of interaction. That's not how it is. He speaks in so many different. How is it that the creator of the universe only speaks to you through worship music and a book?
Yeah,
that's insane.
And the creator of this universe is not going to look at, Jason Alfredo looked at VeggieTales when they were kids, and he's not looking at, he listened to worship music for this long, so this is how.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
That I'm like that drives me insane, because when I hear people, or when people, but that really is just a reflection of your own relationship with God. Is that you think that he can only speak to you and other people the way that you hear him. And you're not even sure if you hear him the way that you think that you hear him. You're just hearing from other people. And you don't, and the problem a lot of times is that we are not trained and encouraged to hear God in the way and develop a personal, intimate relationship with God. We say that, but we don't mean it. Because if we truly meaned it, then we would be comfortable with how other people hear from God. He does not just speak to you from a mountain like Moses. He doesn't just speak to you in a worship service where you're shivering and shaking and convulsing. And I mean, yes, that does happen. He doesn't just speak to you.
From the burning bush.
Yeah, from the burning bush. He doesn't just speak. And that's the problem, is that we wait for, and the still small voice. And how do you know if this person is the one for you? It's you hear the frustration in my voice. It's because it's infuriating, because that's like if I tell my parents I want to be an entrepreneur, and they look at me and go, I don't think you should be an entrepreneur. Well, why not? Well, because this and that. Well, you're not an entrepreneur, so you don't know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Just like if you, Alfredo, you were to tell me that you wanted to do A, B, and C, who am I to tell you what you're supposed to do? Especially if I've never gone where you're going. When my relationship with God breaks through or grows out of my need for people to confirm, yeah, that's God, that's not God. Yeah, that's God, that's not God. My sheep know my voice, a stranger they will not follow. I know him. I feel him. And the problem that I had, going back to Free Chapel, going back to ministry school, was that I was not confident in the way God spoke to me. And when God told me something, I went to people, and I waited for people to confirm what God told me. That's not how it's supposed to go. Now, he will bring people, right, to confirm it and say, nah, I think, and even people that don't even know you. But the truth is, every single person that, going back to the Bible, every single person that God spoke to, they didn't have the Bible. I mean, they had the Torah, but they didn't have the Bible that we have, the Americanized version of the Bible. They didn't have Stephen Furtick. They didn't have devotionals. They had nothing. Mm-hmm. There was nothing but a moment where, hey, I want you to build this thing that you've never built before, but it's going to rain for 40 days. And, I know you don't really know what rain is, but it's going to happen. I want you to bring all these stanky animals onto this big old boat. You're going to be building this boat for a couple of years. Oh, okay. It wasn't until the very moment when it started raining that he realized, oh my God, this is it. And we read, it's a whole another conversation. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but we don't read the Bible with context. Mm-hmm. We don't read it with like, these are people walking out in faith, doing things that have never been done before. And then we go and we say, oh, I feel like David. No, you don't feel like David, because David's life, the only reason why that I'm gonna use David for an example, the only reason why David could make those songs and people still use David's songs from the Song of Songs, because he had to go through enough tension and trauma and hardcore issues that are completely bizarre if you look at David's life, for him to make that kind of music. You don't make that music without a cost. So when people say, I feel like David, no, you don't feel like David. Because if you felt like David, you know you feel like David. Because look at his life. Look at anybody's life. The stuff that, going back to the Bible, the stuff that they went through. So when people talk about, oh my God, well, that's not the Lord. Well, that's not God. I don't feel God. Are you serious? But we talk about how he used a donkey to speak to a human being. We talk about these stories they're just stories to us. They're not real. Because if they were real, then we would believe it. We haven't seen it. So therefore it doesn't, like, come on, man. Like, you mean that God can only do these things. God can only do this. God only speaks to this. If you read your Bible and you starve yourself for 40 days, you'll get healed. Bro, what if I just have to just believe? Or even like, and you know what that does, Alfredo? That keeps us codependent on people. It keeps us codependent. I'm sorry, we're supposed to break, but like, we're supposed to be done. But I'm just like, that drives me insane, because it's like, because I could stop you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, because I'm not confident in what God told you, which is none of my business, or I don't know you. That's why it's a relationship. Because if it was a collective, that's why religion is so dangerous, because if it's a collective formula that we've created, that this is how God speaks, this is what we do, this is how it's done. And why is it that Jesus, the person, we going back to Jesus, never fit in with the religious people? Because it was a formula. It was a do's and don'ts and this and that. And when you do that, you put everything in the box.
Yeah.
And Jesus broke out of the box and said, let he without sin cast the first stone. Do you know how crazy that statement is? If I spend enough time with myself, I'll get the answers that I need. But the problem is that we don't spend enough time with each other. That's why not knocking community and not knocking, I hate the word fellowship, and not knocking all that stuff. That stuff is cool. But I'm just concerned that we're doing that, and it's keeping us codependent.
Yeah.
And we're not relying on the true source and everything that he already gave us, because what we're doing is we're creating just a group of people that need each other. I need people to tell me this. I need someone to confirm this. You don't need anybody.
It's all in here.
We need people. Yes, we're designed for that. But I just, that drives me nuts when I see when people are not or get insecure about other people's relationship with God. I'm not here to give you the answers. You got to find out the answers. And I know it's very hard especially for someone who really needs an answer. But the truth is, if you just spend time with yourself, and I know that sounds so mundane, it doesn't sound like, but it works. It's true. If you spend time by yourself, if you get away from everybody, that's why I like going to the lake. That's why I like going hiking. That's why I like going to the beach. Because he speaks to me. That's why I listen to music the way that I do, because that's how he speaks to me. He don't speak to me all the time. If I hit you up, that don't do me no good. I mean, yeah, you may be able to give me something, but at the end of the day, if it's a spiritual journey, then why are we calling it religion? Why? And then religion is mixed in with spirituality, and people think that spirituality is because I feel things and I cry at different things, and I just no. It's literally the awareness that there's life everywhere, and that he can speak to you anywhere, from any time, at any time. So I'm done.
That was deep, man. Wow.
Yeah.
If you could sit in front of younger version, the younger version of yourself, what would you tell the young Jason?
Trust the heck out of yourself, because Bob Marley has a quote, or it's in a song. It's a famous song, but he says, "Don't let them fool you, or even try to school you." And I forget, I'm losing the rest of it. But anyways, everybody knows that song. But all that to say, trust yourself. That's the scariest thing for us to say. If you just say it to yourself, I trust you. It's scary, because those are the words that we don't want to hear, is that we trust ourselves. We trust everybody else, and that's the problem. Psalms, I don't know what psalm it is, but it says, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord. The scariest thing, we're not taught to trust ourselves in church. Don't trust your feelings. Don't trust your brain. Don't trust your mind. Don't trust your fears. Don't trust your that. And that in itself, I understand that. I understand where that comes from. But we need to look at that again and say, okay, because what you're doing is you're training people to think that their feelings are wrong or they're bad. Feelings are normal. Inspiration comes from everywhere if you just pay attention. All back to what we just talked about originally. But no, I would say, like, trust yourself. Trust your gut. Trust how you feel about situations. Trust how you feel about people. Trust. And here's the thing. I will be wrong. I'm not always right.
Right.
I'll be wrong. It's okay. Be human. Be
okay
imperfect.
To be human.
Be perfect. Be imperfect. Because the theology lesson, maybe I should be a theologian. It says in Romans that the law provoked people to sin more. Because if you give people a list of do's and don'ts, what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like strict parents when they put a bunch of restrictions on kids, and you can't go out at this time. You can't do this. You can't do that. What you going to do? You going to go out more?
Yes.
You going to sneak out at night?
What am I going to do if my parents keep telling me don't sneak out? I'm going to sneak out.
Yeah.
So going back to just taboo, bro. One of the biggest things we had in the I'm just gonna air it out. One of the biggest things we had in the church or in ministry school is about the whole stage situation and people getting opportunities to sing and lead worship. And then we just turned into this big taboo thing of like, oh, I don't want the stage. No, I know. We just know. Don't make it about the stage. If my child came up to me and told me, hey, I want to go to Juilliard and I want to learn how to dance, what am I going to tell her? Oh, you just want to go in there just because you want to be on the stage. It's not about the stage. The stage is just elevated. It's just a platform. They ain't got nothing wrong with the stage.
Mm-hmm.
You see the taboo that we create within ourselves?
So toxic. Because
we don't understand. And the Bible talks about getting understanding. Yes, it talks about getting wisdom. It talks about getting understanding. So, sorry, let me reel it back. Trust yourself. Trust your feelings. Be imperfect. Make mistakes. Screw up. It's okay.
It's okay not to be okay.
And don't be afraid to live your life because everyone else is going to live theirs and they're going to live it the way they want to live it. And then you will be looking crazy because, well, I thought that they were supposed to, they gave me this advice and then they going out and do. No. That's what keeps you weak. That's what keeps you codependent. That's what keeps you in need of people.
It's been really good. It's like, how do you end this? And I bet you like, camera's probably like dying left and right. Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, I'll see how I put this all together. But
good.
Yeah, this was really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and
it's been fun,
bro. Like seriously, I'm glad we got this done. And yeah, appreciate you and appreciate everybody listening, watching, whatever. Yeah. And just check him out. Check out his podcast. It's on Spotify,
Apple,
SoLook.
Yeah, so it's the SoLook podcast. That's right.
Apple. What is it? What do you call it? I don't do the Apple no more.
Apple. We don't talk like this on the SoLook podcast when we need to. I just don't know how.
Gotcha.
I can do it on everyone else's, but I can't do it on mine. But I'll figure it out.
What do you mean?
Just the way we talk.
Okay.
It's just it's easier. It feels easier just to do it like this.
Right.
You know, it's so much easier.
Not so much dialogue. So
100%.
appreciate you again. So everybody, thank y'all for watching. Subscribe, everything. Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.